presenter today is Toivonen, a lifelong Lake County resident, an avid sailor. Ron is a local historian and genealogist. In 1948, under Operation Democracy, Mentor adopted and assisted a sister city called Suolahti in war-torn Finland. Community leaders, volunteers, and concerned citizens collected and sent Suolahti more than $35,000 in food, clothing, and household goods, worth about $400,000 in today's dollars. Ron from the Finnish Museum has spent years researching this episode in Mentor's history. It's dubbed Operation Democracy, 1948. And may I present Ron?
Thank you, Lisa. This is like home for me because I grew up about a block from here. My family moved to Mentor-on-the-Lake in 1945. And you can imagine as a 7-year-old, at night, I'm listening to all this sound in Mentor-on-the-Lake at that time. The big band was playing, Miller Orchestra type music. The skating ring was going with an organ. The Penny Arcade had noise. And there was a carousel that had music. So there was all this music that I was listening to as I went to sleep. I first became aware of Operation Democracy in 1948 as a Cub Scout here in Mentor-on-the-Lake. And then 70 years later, I became aware of Operation Democracy again in Fairport at the Finnish Heritage Museum. I was a member of the genealogy committee, and the museum had just gotten a donation of 7 boxes of documents, photographs, newspaper clippings, and all kinds of things. Some of them going back 100 years. They were donated by Helen Kasarsi, who was a Finnish teacher in Fairport Harbor during that time. And she was a collector of everything. So the museum got the 7 boxes, and at my first meeting with the genealogy committee, Ann Poto, and I'm going to embarrass her, I'm going to ask her to stand. Ann Poto was the archivist for the museum, and she brought down a box. And she said, we've got 7 of these, and we're supposed to go through it to find out what we want to keep, what we want to throw out, and what we want to donate. And so she pulls out of the box this football program. And I said, oh, I know that program. That's Suolahti in Mentor. And she said, well, this is your box. So I took that box home, and I spent just a brief time going through it initially, but then maybe several months later, maybe up to a year later, I started going through it. And it was containing all the information that you're going to see in this program, plus more. And I'm pleased to be able to present it to you. Okay, I had arranged for a guest speaker. He usually does this program for me, but he was unavailable today. He's in Montana right now. He's dancing with wolves. So, Operation Democracy. Operation Democracy project grew out of the devastation of World War II. A world in ruins and a vast population suffering from 6 years of brutal conflict. Its goal was to enable ordinary Americans to influence international relations by making connections, one community to another. It was based on the desire for individuals to do something that was within their capabilities, independent of governments, to steer the world towards peace instead of war. Operation Democracy objectives is to promote international goodwill on a person-to-person level. Mentor was a village in 1948. It did not become a city until 1963. The population of Mentor was about 6,000 people in 1948. This is a photo of Suolahti, and Suolahti in Finnish means salt marsh, salt bay, or marshy area. And I think Menor picked that village because of its heritage and the Menor Marsh. So I think those were connected together. It's a copy of a couple of Western Union telegrams that were sent to the Reverend Richard Pettit from Charles Todd, the Operation Democracy Director. And this was confirming the approval of Suolahti as a sister city. In 1938, Germany signed a non-aggression pact with Russia. And then in 1939, in November, Germany invaded Poland. At that time, it gave Russia the opportunity to invade Finland. And they fought, the Russian people fought the Finnish people for 3 months, but Russia could not defeat Finland. Finland fought them to a standstill. A peace agreement was signed, and Finland had to cede 15% of its territory to Russia. And that's the area in red, which was ceded at the end of the treaty to Russia. And you can see where Suolahti is located. So when the area was ceded, 450,000 people from the area ceded to Russia after the Winter War of 1939 immigrated to central Finland. Many of them crowded into Suolahti. Every 9th citizen is a displaced person. Every 16th man is permanently disabled. Every 17th woman is a war widow. Every 25th child is a war orphan. This is a photograph of Helen. She was 32 in 1948. She was born in Fairport Harbor in 1916, a grade school teacher, as mentioned before. She was a historian and collector of records. She died at the age of 97 in Fairport Harbor. So all of the documents that are used in this, and this is just, the binder is just a very small amount of them, were in that box about this Operation Democracy. So at that time, a lot of people came together to make this project viable and to be successful. This is Charles Todd. He was the executive secretary of Operation Democracy in New York City. He was born in Dunkirk, New York. He was 37 at the time in 1948. He was a professor at Hamilton College in Clinton, New York. He also was heavily involved in international public relations. He died at the age of 92 in Vero Beach, Florida. Esta Hietala is the executive secretary of Help Finland in New York City. She was 55 in 1948. She was born in Helsinki, Finland. She toured Menor and Fairport Harbor from New York City during the fundraising for these events. And she died at the age of 77 in New York City. This is William Kaya, he was 33 in 1948. He was the vice consul in the consulate of the General of Finland in New York City. He also visited Menor and Fairport and supportive of all the efforts made to gather donations for the program and for the people of Suolahti. He was instrumental in arranging free shipping from New York City to Suolahti, Finland. He died at age 92 in Richmondville, New York. By the way, is there anybody here that remembers this time going back in 1948? Or am I the oldest in the room? I guess I'm the oldest. Okay, Oleva Pia was 37 in 1948. He was born in Detroit, Michigan, although he was the mayor of Suolahti, Finland. He had a law degree, which he earned in 1940. He was also a deputy judge in 1945. In 2009, the center in the town of Seinäjoki in Finland was renamed Oleva Park. He died at age 84 in Finland. Elsa Karolinian was the secretary of the Mannerheim League in Suolahti, Finland. She was 38 at the time in 1948. She was born in Suolahti. She managed the sorting and distribution of goods for the people of Suolahti. She died in 2006 in Suolahti, Finland. This is the picture of the Suolahti day home, and many of these children received clothing and food and donations from the city of Mentor. For ages of children from 2 to 6. These are the students of Suolahti Central Primary School. The third boy in the second row remembers his family receiving a package of goods. It's the Mentor Civic Club that took the leadership role in Operation Democracy and the Sister City program. It was quite a large team to put it together. William Ware was president of the Mentor Civics Club. He was also an editor of the Plain Dealer. He was 37 in 1948. He was born in Painesville, Ohio in 1911. He wrote many newspaper articles promoting the Mentor Suolahti project, and he died at age 87 in Florida. Oliver Marshall was secretary of the Mentor Civics Club at the time. He was also a prosecutor at the time in the Painesville Muni Court. He also became a judge later in Painesville. He was 36 at this time. He was born in Washington, PA. He died at the age of 73 in Concord Township. This is John Hemphill, who was chairperson of the Mentor Suolahti project. He was president of the J.W. Hemphill Insurance Agency, and he was 29 in 1948. He was born in 1918 in Duquesne, PA. He died in Painesville at the age of 62. He was an International Rotary Club officer, and with Dr. Paul Weaver, established Lake Erie College Year Abroad program in Europe through the International Rotary Club. I visited a few weeks ago with Nancy Hemphill Pollock, his daughter, and she gave me this photo of him. John Nelson was treasurer of the Suolahti project, an attorney from Painesville, Ohio. He was 32 at the time in 1948. He was born John Weinberger in Sire, PA. His father's name was Nelson S. Weinberger. So at some point he took his father's middle name and his last name, or his first name and middle name, and became John S. Nelson. He was a lieutenant commander in the Navy in World War II. He died at age 85 in Painesville, Ohio. This is the Richard Pettit. He was a liaison for the Mentor Suolahti project, and was also Reverend of the Mentor Methodist Church. He was 29 in 1948, and he was born in Tracy, Marion, Iowa. He died at the age of 84 in Sunsetter, Florida, and I have been in contact with both of his daughters and sent them this, a copy of this presentation. William Nordman, concert chairman of the Suolahti project, was the band director of Mentor High School at that time. He was 40 years old in 1948. He was born in Heinhold, Finland. He died at age 60. This is Urho Toivonen. He was transportation chairman of the project. He was a traffic manager at Penton Publishing in Cleveland. He was born in 1910 in Ashtabula. He was 38 at the time of 1948. He was a Mentor-on-the-Lake councilman, and he was owner of the first jewelry store in Mentor, and he died at the age of 70 in Lakewood. Harry Bissell was a city official, Mentor Suolahti project, a mayor of Mentor-on-the-Lake at the time. 36 in 1948. He was born 1912 in Painesville, Ohio. He owned a trucking business in Mentor-on-the-Lake. He was, as I said, he was also mayor of Mentor-on-the-Lake. He graduated from Mentor High School in 1930. He died at the age of 81 in Florida. Fred James, City Council, Mentor Suolahti, city officials, Mentor Suolahti project. I was the mayor of Mentor Village at the time. He was 44 in 1948, born in 1904 in Cleveland. He was a Mentor policeman in 1930. He died in 1964 at the age of 60. Arthur Ritari, a city official in the Mentor Suolahti project, was mayor of Fairport Harbor. He was 44 at the time. He was born in 1904 in Fairport Harbor. He was a lawyer in Fairport Harbor. He died at the age of 66 in Fairport Harbor. So it's really in our DNA to give to others. And I think you'll see that this is very evident in this program, and it continues on today in today's society. This is just a small list of the many Lake County organizations that made this program successful. Now, it wasn't just Mentor, and it wasn't just Fairport that supported this program. Paynesville, Willoughby, Kirtland, all the surrounding areas, churches, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, civic organizations, all of those came together to make this successful. This was a list of items that were most needed that was published, what they felt could be the best use for the people of Suolahti. So the committee planned many community events with the idea of having an opportunity for people to attend and donate food, clothing, or household goods or money. And again, it was all the surrounding communities doing this. Okay, this is Mentor on the Lake. The Boy Scout Troop 80 raises the Finnish flag at Mentor on the Lake Park. The Boy Scout here raising the flag is my older brother, Bill. Here is Harry Bissell, the mayor of Mentor on the Lake, and standing to his left is my grandfather. And this little guy right there is me. They did things like a Thanksgiving parade in each of the communities. And this is a picture of the Mentor High School majorettes. And notice Geraldine Fedak, she's the second from the left. Her name's going to appear later in this presentation. Another activity they had was a community concert where, again, food, clothing, donations, all kinds of events were planned to raise donations for this project. This is Halloween night. Instead of getting treats, we were asked to go out and ask for donations. Some of you will recognize this is Jacket's little store on Mentor Avenue at the corner of what is now Mentor Avenue and Center Street. And then on the right is one of the Mentor families collecting donations. They held community dances in the various cities. Admission was a donation of food or clothing or household items. This was a game between Mentor and Fairport, a charity game for the Suolahti game. For entrance to the game was a donation. I know you all want to know who won that game. Now, I'm not in that picture, but that's typical of what was going on. This is what one Boy Scout collected. This was in the box of donations. It's my brother's, what he donated, or what he collected. You wonder how she got this document, Helen Kasari. I mean, she must have collected everything. So all the items were packed at the Mentor, by Mentor volunteers, and it took me a while, but I realized that's the Mentor on the Lake Park building. So volunteers loaded the trucks. William Ware, who we've talked about, my dad, I was chairman of the trucking because of his traffic management dealings, and Noel Wical. And again, $335,000 worth of food, clothing, and household items were collected. And again, in today's, that's $400,000 worth of materials. Almost $500,000 worth of goods. So here are the various mayors. This is actually, I'm sure, all politicians want to get in a photo event. So I don't know that after this picture was taken, if they ever even loaded any of the trucks. So 2 semi-trucks were needed to carry everything that was collected and ship it off to New York City. This is a photo of Operation Democracy and Help Finland officials, Charles Todd and Esther on the left, and then William Wical on the right, looking at the goods in New York City prior to shipment. And here again, they're looking at it, the goods when they're being shipped onto or loaded onto the boat. And it was Help Finland that made the arrangements for Finn Lines to transport these goods for free from New York City to the village of Suolahti. The Mannerheim League is Suolahti Social Services Organization. You could call them the Red Cross or the Food Bank or whatever. They just were the ones that took care of all the social services in Finland. And each town or village had their own Mannerheim League. So these are photos of the women of the Mannerheim League packaging the goods, and they spent 500 hours sorting and distributing the goods. So Geraldine Fedak again, she donated a coat and found with a note in the pocket and received a reply from the person that received that note. She was 17 in 1948 when she did that. She was born in Painesville, Ohio in 1931. And graduated from Miller High School, and she died at the age of 84 in Madison, Ohio. This is a letter from the mayor of Suolahti to Anton in Ashtabula, Ohio. And as you can see, he's asking for a little assistance from Anton so he would know who to thank. And that was a letter that I pulled out of that box. It was 2 pages long. This is just paraphrasing it in excellent English because the mayor was born in Detroit and Anton was my grandfather. So somehow this box was meant for me. Many documents were returned. I found in a box from the people of Suolahti saying thank you for everything. This is a photo of the AIRA LAINE family in Suolahti in 1952. Area, the one that I'm talking about, is the youngest child in the photo. And I received an email from her. She had 10 children in her family. She's age 4 in this photo. She's now 74. So 75 years later, they're paying it forward. Suolahti is taking in refugees from the Ukraine war. This is an email that she sent to me. Martha is the daughter of Reverend Pettit. She's an artist and she's a member of the Studio Quilt Association. And as a thank you for sending her the presentation, she sent me this quilt that she had done of the whooper swan, the national bird of Finland. So any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
How long did that project last?
The Suolahti project? Or you mean just for the Menor one?
Yes.
It started in 1947 to get underway. Things finally got shipped into Suolahti in 1949. So there was almost a whole year that things were collected.
Wow.
Other questions? Yes, in the back.
Well, with the entire Operation Democracy, did that last for a number of years after the end of the war?
I don't know how long it lasted, but I know that several cities took this on. For example, the city of Dunkirk, New York, took Dunkirk, and is it Belgium?
Yeah.
Dunkirk, Belgium, that was where the Dunkirk was devastated. And other cities took other towns. They took them in France, Italy, Germany. This one happened to be in Finland. They took this one. Other questions? Yes.
Another one. I am amazed at how many of the prime movers in Mentor were in their mid to late 30s. Really, a real young generation. When I think now many of the leaders might be more like their 40s and their 50s and super established. And a lot of them, I don't know if this would be accessible information, like, had they served in the war for many of them?
I'm sure many of them did. What these young men and women were called the greatest generation. And it's my generation that came after that. It's called the silent generation. And somewhere way over there is the millenniums. Other questions? All right. I left cards on the table over here. If you have a group or a church or an association that you'd think might be interested in this program to learn about the history of Mentor or Lake County, I'd be glad to arrange a time. So with that, I thank you very much.